What up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice & Dragons, we are going to be reviewing the first of Ravensburger's adventure book games. This is The Princess Bride, designed by Ryan Miller, and you already know who the publisher is. I already said it. Now, I'm going to toss it over to Julie, who's going to tell you more about the game itself.
So this is a cooperative adventure game, as Jason alluded to moments ago, that is for 1 to 4 players, ages 10 and above, and according to the box, plays in about 15 minutes per chapter.
With a total of 6 chapters, so it plays in about an hour and a half. I'd say that a full playthrough of this game is probably going to be anywhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours, including the setup time and things like that. So, what are you doing in this game? Well, you're going to be flipping through the adventure book. You'll be setting up each adventure according to the rules that are in the back of the rule book. There are specific components and character miniatures that you'll be using for each adventure. Now, the one thing that is standard across how you play through all the adventures is your use of cards. You've got cards that have different aspects on them, from love, courage, intrigue, revenge, adventure, and I might be missing one, but I think I got all of them actually. Yep. You're going to be playing those cards in order to complete specific challenges. So a certain challenge may require 2 revenge, or a revenge, a courage, and a love, and so on and so forth. Those cards can also be used to move players forward on the map. Each turn you can move a character 2 spaces, or each character 1 space. You may move 0 spaces as well if you want to. That's the first part of the game. After that, there is a sequence of events that you're allowed to do in any order. You'll then be drawing from the plot deck. Now, the plot deck has all the bad stuff that's going to be happening and it's going to have the villains progress towards their goals. Now, depending on certain conditions, you may fail the chapter. You will then flip the grandson token over because, you know what, he's interrupted the story, which is incredibly thematic to the movie, and you got to start that adventure again. If you fail the same chapter twice, you will then lose the game. I think I've talked enough about the game. So, one thing I just want to mention, we do not have it set up in front of us. We play this with some family on vacation, so we're just going to be doing things a little bit differently than we normally do, but still pretty much what you're used to here on Dice & Dragons. We're going to be going right into a how to play video. We're not going to be reviewing the components, as there's a lot of small pieces that change per chapter, so you get a good idea as to what comes in the box when we get to that section. And on that note, Julie, what do we need to do?
We're going to grab our drink.
Grab our true love. I mean, it's fitting for this game as well. It's true. And we're going to teach you how to play. I got something dripping here. Now we're going to take a look at some of the components, and we're going to teach you how to set up and how to play the Princess Bride adventure book game. Now in my hand, I've got some of the components that we will not be taking a quick look at. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of tokens. That's the main thing that I've got off to the side here. They change based on the chapter that you're playing, so it'll be fairly straightforward for you to figure out what they are and take them out of the box. Now we have the rule book. It's very straightforward. List the components. How you're going to be setting up just the game basically every single time. You've got the game overview, explanation of how to complete the challenges, and then just the miracles and winning the game. Here's the chapter setup, as well as what you're going to be doing for every chapter. And at the start of the chapter, you will shuffle the story deck and deal 4 story cards to each player. Now, each player also has a reference card, which has everything that you can do on your turn. So you can move, you can participate in storytelling in any order, then there's a draw phase, the plot card phase, and the discard phase. So let's take a look at the story cards a little bit. At the top, we'll have our 2 hands, so we're going to have 4 cards for player 1. And you know what, we'll keep player 2's hand there. I'll draw 4 cards right here for player 1. So as you can see, I've got love, intrigue, and revenge. Some stuff that isn't all that great, but there's a lot of stuff that we can do. And let's take a look at how we're going to set up the chapter. So the rules are actually listed right here. Westley starts in the barn. Buttercup in the farmhouse. You place the miracle counter here, which you're going to try to pick up during your game. You place 3 of the chore counters on those starting positions, and then you're going to read through the rules and what you need to do. So with the chapter rules, during the storytelling phase, the active player may discard a card to move a chore counter in Westley's space to the list of chores. So we can move this off to the side. As you can see, there's a maximum of 6 over here. Then the chapter is interrupted, meaning that you lose the chapter if there are no more chore counters remaining in this list right here. Now we've got the plot table. When we draw the plot cards, they will have a number on them. So as you can see, it's going to be number 7. We'll go over that in a moment. We're going to follow what it says to do on these cards. Now, let's go through the phases of the game and what we're trying to do. So, as you wish is one of the challenges. So, there must be 2 or fewer chore counters on the map, and Westley and Buttercup must be in the same space. You must spend a love card in order to complete this challenge. For this one, Westley and Buttercup must be in the barn, and then you have to spend these cards. You get to draw 1 card from the special deck. The special deck is here. All these cards have different special abilities. So I hope you win. You get to choose a player, and they draw 2 cards from the story deck. And then finally, seek fortune. Buttercup and Westley must be in this last space, and you must spend 2 adventure and 1 courage. So the first thing we can do is move a single character 2 spaces, or move 2 characters, 1 space. At this point, we really need to get Westley doing his chores. So, being player 1, I'm going to spend 1, 2. And revenge and intrigue are completely useless. For the moment, I'm just going to be discarding cards off camera here. So, we'll spend a revenge to pick up this chore, move it over here. We then go into the draw phase where I draw 2 cards from the story deck. Not all the stuff that we need, but still the adventure is pretty good. So we've got 5 cards we do not need to discard, which is the final phase. We draw the plot card, which is number 7. Follow what it says here. Place a chore counter from the list of chores on the space with the same number. So we now have a chore on space 7. I'm just going to slide that over here. And then we go over to player 2's turn. And it's not like you're playing a specific character. You can do anything and everything. Also, you may discard a storytelling card, a story card, to move a character extra spaces. So we've got a bunch of chores we want to complete. We definitely want to try to get that miracle before the end. But let's move Westley towards Buttercup. I'm going to go to there, move 2, spend an adventure. An intrigue to get rid of the chore at the well. We're going to spend a revenge to move 1, and we need 2 adventures. As player 1 has an adventure, we can also trade during the game. We'll spend an adventure. We had a revenge. Yeah, revenge to move, spend an adventure, going down to only 1 card to get rid of this chore. Because we're trying to really stay ahead of a few things. We then draw 2 cards from the story deck. We do the plot, which is number 8. Place a chore in space 8. And we go back to player 1's turn. Now, here's where some stuff gets interesting. We can look at some of the other stuff. We haven't completed a challenge yet. We can trade a single card, so we can only use that once. We can use the miracle once we pick it up to draw 3 story cards. So you get where we're going with this, but we're going to keep the pace of play going well. So we need to move 2. So I'm going to leave this chore out for right now because 1, 2, so we can get to where Buttercup is. Now, we've got Seek Fortune, which we need the courage, but we also have this other one that we need to do. So we're going to trade the adventure for the courage. Getting this together, we're going to spend an intrigue to move into Buttercup's space. You can go ahead and then spend these to complete the challenge, which is great, which you love, which is perfect. I like that actually a lot. And then we get to draw a card from the special deck. Now, one thing you may notice here, and we actually had a different option, is that there must be 2 or fewer cards to try to do as you wish. So I'm going to take a gamble here, spend the special card, pick myself to draw 2 cards from the story deck. Maybe I'll pick up a love. Wrong deck there. And no, I did not get a love, which is very unfortunate. Now let's flip through the deck here just a little bit. I'm in a pretty good spot. I would have drawn them anyway. So actually, let's just see what happens. So I've finished my turn. We're going to draw the plot card, which is plot card number 17. Move Buttercup to Westley's space and draw and resolve another plot card. Not great. So plot card number 2 actually isn't that bad for us. We end up with a chore on space 2. So we're going to go over to player 2's turn. And what they're going to do is they're going to move each character 1 space. Nice and easy. Now they're going to request a trade for the love. So we'll take the intrigue back. We're going to just spend it right away because it's easy enough. I'm just going to let them complete that. But they would also have to spend one of their adventures in order to complete the chore beforehand. Because remember, you have to have no 2 chores. So by moving to spending one of their adventures, between the love they traded, they get to complete this. They draw a card from the special deck. So draw 3 cards from the deck and then discard 2 cards. Can hang on to this for the moment. And now it's really just about completing the adventure. So at this point, draw 2 more cards from the deck. Pretty good. Flip over the plot card number 11. We put a chore on space 11. I'm going to try to probably ignore these from now. We're going to go ahead. And the next player's turn, just move 1, 2. Oh, sorry. 1, 2. See what we got. And so we don't have exactly what we need, but we can start trading to the other player. So we'll trade an adventure for the revenge. Now we're going to spend the intrigue and revenge just to move Westley to get the miracle, which can let us draw 3 cards. Now those carry over between. We can spend an intrigue to move here. We'll spend the last intrigue to move Buttercup to the space. We want to hang on to the courage. So you can see we're pretty much done here. Draw 2 cards. Good stuff. Flip over the plot deck. 6, space 6. And since we can just trade, as you can see, we're going to move here to the trade. Complete the final task. As you can see, boom, done. And then we're going to move on to chapter 2. So very straightforward. You can see what we're doing. Now you won't be drawing anything necessarily from the special deck. And you're now good to go. So that's really how you play the game. And so you can see each game follows their own set of rules, well, each chapter. So chapter 2 is going to be a different experience. Now I do want to showcase just some of the miniatures here. We got Fezzik. We've got Prince Humperdinck, Vizzini. I do like the fact that they're colored, makes things a little easier. We've got Inigo Montoya. You've killed my father. Prepare to die. Well, my name is Inigo Montoya. Got to say it right. Count Rugen. And then this is the chapter marker. If it gets interrupted, we flip it over. And it's on the grandfather's side. So it's just a way to keep track of what's going on. But there, as you can see, the game can play rather quickly. We've been going over this for only about 10 minutes. We got through the first chapter. So each chapter takes about 15 minutes to play maximum. Now keep it right here as Julie and I will be coming back at you with a review of the game. So Julie, what did you think of the Princess Bride Adventure Book game?
Well, so one of the cool things I would say is that it plays differently every chapter. It's like a new mini game.
Exactly. This is really a sequence of mini games, 6 mini games. If you beat them all, you win the game.
So different villains. It's like
different heroes too.
Different heroes. It's like I guess the different aspects of a movie. So for that, it's interesting.
And you are going through the scenes from the movie. This is very thematic. As a fan of the film, each chapter fits very well with specific scenes and chapters from the movie, and what you're doing really feels like those specific parts. So thematically, I think they did a great job.
I know I watched the movie. I don't really remember it much, so sorry.
I do. I've seen it many, many times. When I used to live in the U.S., it was always on TV, and I loved watching it. I think it's a family game. I think I would call it that way. It's a fairly easy game to play. The sequence of event is fairly consistent, and once you get into the rhythm of it, I think it's fairly easy to
to go through the game. So I can see why it's for ages, 10 and above.
And it's very easy to teach. The actions that you're going to be doing are very straightforward. Now, one thing I will say, there's definitely the risk of having an alpha gamer because it's very easy to see what there is to do. There is really, every person's turn, there is one best course of action to take. So if you do have that alpha gamer in the family and you're not going to be, talking through things cooperatively at the table, you may want to avoid this game and all the other adventure book games, as they're probably going to be using the same core mechanic.
Yeah. The other thing I would say from a production standpoint, it's a little difficult to see what's going on because of the way, the book concept is interesting. I thought it was neat. That being said, depending on how you're sitting around the table, and we tried a couple different ways, you can't really see what's on the other side of the board. And the colors are kind of dark, so it's hard to tell the difference between some of the colors.
It feels like they were trying to do colors that were a little bit more colorblind friendly, but I think they should have gone even more colorblind friendly and use, the vibrant oranges, greens, purples, some of the colors we have in Descent Legends of the Dark. Because with the colors that they've taken that are still very colorful but more muted, it was definitely hard for some people to distinguish. Also, the symbols weren't big enough. And I do agree with you, the visibility isn't great. That being said, I don't think it presents that much of a problem as long as you can have one person or two people that are going to be responsible for clearly explaining the sequence of events and what needs to be done in each challenge. But the iconography being small as well mean that someone can't just glance over and be like, oh, I got to do that. That's a big problem.
Yeah, it was hard to tell, the last game we were playing, I was on, the opposite side of the table from the challenges. And besides when it was requiring love, I couldn't tell what icon it was. Was it adventure? Was it, it was very difficult to see because the colors are so close. And even then, adventure and love are orange and...
No, you're thinking love and courage. And then it was revenge and intrigue. No, intrigue and adventure. Revenge being black kind of stands out on its own.
Yeah, but it's hard to see, so it's not like I could pre-plan. So you're relying on somebody else, which to Jason's point makes an alpha gamer come out. And I saw it a little bit with the game we played with my parents. We kind of took over and didn't give them much of an opportunity to make their own decisions.
No, but the one thing I did notice is that it was easier for your dad to pick up the different mechanics. Like each game, he got used to the idea that each game was different. So once he got a flow for it, it was less of us. We helped him 1 and 2, and then he's like, I need to do this. And it's like, oh, you can do that. He goes, oh yeah, I can do that. I've got this, no problem. Thanks for pointing it out. It worked really well. When it was more difficult was when your mom was playing him, because it changed every time. She kept wanting to understand everything in a lot of detail. And if you've got someone that suffers from analysis paralysis, likes to understand every detail of the game, this is probably not going to be necessarily for them, because there's some stuff that may or may not happen depending on the plot cards that come out. And what you're going to be doing is going to be very clear and straightforward. You've got one clear, straightforward goal. The plot cards kind of muck everything up. And other than that, you're working together to solve those specific goals, basically those challenges. But if you're trying to figure out how this relates to this, or why you can't do this in this chapter, you can do it in that chapter, you're just going to frustrate yourself. You really got to treat everything like this is something, this is one way, this is this way, this is this way. And that's the only way to get through the game.
The minis are okay. They're not the best minis we've seen.
I'm actually going to say something that I don't usually say. Get rid of these miniatures. And I would also say lower the quality on the board. I think the board is too thick. I think the board should be a little bit thinner. I would have much rather it be spiral bound. Now, I don't know if that would actually add to the cost of it, because there's a lot of air in this box, and standees would have been just fine. And based on our experience, and we'll talk about that, I think that the production value for this and the price you're paying isn't necessarily worth it. I think it's okay. If you're looking at buying the game for a one-off family activity, the price per player is not bad, but it definitely ain't great. This is the equivalent of buying a movie ticket. And at least that's my opinion. And considering that it's based on a movie, I guess that is kind of fitting. But as a board game, I was hoping for something a little bit more meat on its bones.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add. This is a simple game. There's not a lot to it. It's fun, it's fast, it's simple.
The big question is, and I think I was going to say it for our review, but why don't we talk about it since I said I don't think this is necessarily worth the price, is replayability. is this game replayable?
I don't think so.
I think it is, but in very long increments. So you're going to be spending like $40 for the game. It's going to sit on your shelf. You'll play it maybe once every 6 months, once every 2 years. 6 months is because you're a diehard super fan of the game. But getting through this in one evening it's great. It's fun. I can definitely see picking this up like you're going to the Lake House Cottage. You've got people that are fans of this movie. Like, buy it. You'll enjoy it. But when you get back, you're going to want to sell it. You're going to pass it on. Because it is very light and it's very easy to play. But that means you don't want to get it back to the table. And we were discussing it before we got on camera here, and this is not going to be staying in our collection. I would love to play this again, potentially with our little guy, but that means hanging on to this thing for a couple of years. And quite frankly, my shelf space is too valuable. And I think I'll find something else that I would much rather put on the shelf to play with him, or even get games that I can play with him now and progress with him, because this one just doesn't cut it. So we do have the Wizards of Oz game. I'm curious to see if they iterate on that, if some aspects, and it is more replayable, or if this is just going to be a line of games that we'll play too, and we're just saying.
It'll be interesting because it'll be the reverse, where I know the story and appreciate it more than you do, I think.
Yes, but I do know the story very well, inside and out.
Okay. So, are you ready to give it a rating?
Yeah, I'm ready to give it a rating.
Go ahead.
So this is a 6.5. The production values, even though I don't like them, I would have preferred something a little cheaper. I would have rather this game hit the $20 mark, where it's a little bit higher than that. It's still very good, a lot of fun. Everything feels nice. The card stock could be a little bit better, but it does such a good job of adapting the movie to the table, and I really love that. We played the Goonies Coded Chronicles, and while that did a great job of adapting the movie to the table, the fact that it was a mystery, like escape room game, I felt was a detriment. This feels like I'm living the movie, and I'd love to actually Goonies like this might get me to buy it and keep it, even though it's something that may only get played like once in a blue moon. So 6.5, I think it does everything well, but just not something I can really recommend that you need for your collection. Diehard superfan will have fun with it, but it's going to gather dust most of the time.
So it's a 6.5 for me as well. It was fun to play it. I enjoyed it. It was fast. It was simple. So those are things that, that I can appreciate as well. Accessible, very accessible. But I was a little bored by the end. As much as I say I don't want a brain burner, even though it's a new game, a new mini game every chapter, and you got like 6 mini games, I was like, okay, I got it, I'm done.
Yeah, by 2 turns, you've kind of figured it out. Once each player's played twice, you're pretty good to go. And one thing I want to mention, I think we can both agree with, at 4 players, this was fairly easy. I've read online and been talking to some people that think it'll be more difficult with 2 players because you've got less cards, which is entirely possible. But at 4 players, this game is a cakewalk.
Yep.
At least for most gamers. Now, for your average family, I think you're going to find have some trouble with this, at least until you figure it out. That being said, it's still not going to be the most challenging thing that you've ever played.
So, on that note, I think it's time to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when we have new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You'll find links to all of our social media feeds: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see some pictures of Julie and I playing The Princess Bride, there'll be plenty on those feeds. Also down there is a link to multizone.ca, a great Canadian game store. So if you're looking to pick up a copy of The Princess Bride, any Ravensburger game, or The Wizard of Oz, make sure that you click that link. You get 10% off your next purchase. Great way to support the channel. A portion of that purchase is returned to us. And then popping up in front of us are going to be links to some of our previously released videos. In front of me will be our most recent release. In front of Julie, it's going to take you back to some of the Wizard of Oz content. I think we'll have an unboxing out maybe around when this comes out, and then the review of the game, probably not how to play at that point, since I think they're going to be playing rather similarly. Now we're going to
grab our drink,
have our true love. And we're definitely going to keep playing games.
We're going to keep playing games?
We're going to keep playing games.
Okay.
Thanks for correcting me.
That's my job.